My concern is a carbon monoxide issue right now.
Nearly 2 hours of harrowing, just-released video shows Santa Fe sheriffs peering in windows, trying to figure out what happened alongside emotional workers who prompted this 911 call last month.
She mentioned to me that there was a man that had parked outside of their gate and followed them on 2 separate occasions.
A judge is deciding whether to block the release of records from an investigation into the deaths of actor Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa at the request of the couple's estate. But it seems someone from the inside is already leaking confidential investigation materials. A Santa Fe-based judge has scheduled a hearing to consider a request from the estate representative to seal the records to protect the family's constitutional right to privacy. Among the records under consideration are photos, videos, and documents. The court has put a temporary hold on the release of the records ahead of the hearing, but it is believed part of the footage taken at Hackman's home is already doing rounds on the internet. The bodies of Hackman and Arakawa were found in their Santa Fe home on February 26th. Maintenance and security workers showed up at the home and alerted police. Authorities said Hackman died of heart disease with complications from Alzheimer's disease about a week after his wife's death. Hackman may have been unaware Arakawa was dead. Her cause of death was listed as hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, which is a rare rodent-borne disease. New Mexico's open records law blocks public access to sensitive images, including depictions of dead bodies. Experts also say some medical information is not considered public record under the State Inspection of Public Records Act. The representative for Hackman's estate emphasized the possibly shocking nature of photographs and video in the investigation and the potential for their dissemination by media in the bid to block them from being released. The Hackman family estate's lawsuit also seeks to block the release of autopsy reports by the Office of the Medical Investigator and death investigation reports by the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office. The bulk of death investigations by law enforcement and autopsy reports by medical investigators are typically considered public records under state law in the spirit of ensuring government transparency and accountability. Authorities unraveled the mysterious circumstances of the couple's deaths and described their conclusions at a March 7th news conference without releasing most related written and photographic records. One of the couple's 3 dogs, a Kelpie mix named Zinna, was found dead in a crate in a bathroom closet near Arakawa. 2 other dogs survived. The written request to seal the records notes the couple placed a significant value on their privacy and took affirmative vigilant steps to safeguard it during their lives, including after they moved to Santa Fe and Hackman retired. The state capital is known as a refuge for celebrities, artists, and authors. Arakawa had no children, while Hackman is survived by 3 children from a previous marriage. Privacy will likely also play a role as the couple's estate is settled. According to probate court documents, Hackman signed an updated will in 2005, leaving his estate to his wife, while the will she signed that same year directed her estate to him. With both of them dying, management of the estate is in the family estate's hands. A request is pending to appoint a trustee to administer assets in 2 trusts associated with the estate. Without trust documents being made public, it's unclear who the beneficiaries are and how the assets will be divided. Attorneys who specialize in estate planning in New Mexico say it's possible more details could come out if there were any legal disputes over the assets. Even then, they said, the parties likely would ask the court to seal the documents. The Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office now says they have confirmed that Arakawa made multiple calls to a health clinic on the 12th of February for medical treatment, which the clinic revealed she never was able to receive. The Sheriff's Office learned of the calls when they received cell phone data from her phone. They noted 3 calls that morning to Cloudberry Health, a personalized concierge medical practice in the area. She also received a 4th call from the clinic. The Sheriff's Office noted it never reported an official date of death for her, and said that initially, they'd stated that Arakawa's last known activity was on the 11th of February. Authorities say she'd exchanged emails with a massage therapist and visited a grocery store, pharmacy, and a pet store. Garage clicker data showed she returned home around 5:15 p.m. that day. Dr. Josiah Child, who leads Cloudberry Health, revealed that while the clinic had never treated Hackman or Arakawa, she had reached out for medical advice. She called and described some congestion but didn't mention any respiratory distress, shortness of breath, or chest pain, he said. Dr. Child said Arakawa initially had scheduled an appointment for the 12th of February but canceled on the 10th of February, explaining that she needed to care for her husband. On the morning of the 12th of February, she called again seeking treatment, but because no doctor-patient relationship had been established, the clinic told her she needed to be seen in person. There were a couple calls back and forth to just schedule that appointment for the afternoon, but she never showed up, Dr. Child explained. Our office called back several times and never got an answer. Chief Medical Investigator Dr. Heather Jarrell stated that, based on the circumstances, it is reasonable to conclude that Betsy passed away first. Authorities believe Hackman died on the 18th of February, the date of his last recorded pacemaker activity, which showed an abnormal rhythm of atrial fibrillation. As mentioned earlier, his cause of death was severe heart disease, with advanced Alzheimer's disease listed as a contributing factor. Experts believe his Alzheimer's may have prevented him from realizing his wife of more than 30 years was dead in the home where he was living. If he did, experts suggested, he likely went through various stages of confusion and grief, trying to wake her up before the disease caused him to become distracted or too overwhelmed to act, a process that likely repeated for days before he too died. A necropsy report also revealed that one of the couple's 3 dogs, which had been crated while recovering from surgery, died from starvation and dehydration. Legal experts have now said that because authorities say Arakawa died 7 days before her husband, Hackman's children could now potentially inherit his fortune despite not being named in the will. His 3 children with his late ex-wife, Faye Maltese, Christopher, Elizabeth, and Leslie, have not commented publicly on the matter. Arakawa's own will left her assets to Hackman, with a provision that if they died within 90 days of each other, her estate would go to a trust and later be donated to charity after covering medical expenses. Hackman has in the past discussed his relationship with his children. "You become very selfish as an actor," he told the New York Times in 1989. "Even though I had a family, I took jobs that would separate us for 3 or 4 months at a time. The temptations in that, the money and recognition, it was too much for the poor boy in me." Hackman's children, though rarely in the public eye, occasionally attended red carpet events with him. In another interview, Hackman talked about the difficulty his children had of growing up with a parent who was constantly in the spotlight. "It's tough being the son or daughter of a celebrity," he told the Irish Independent in 2000. "I couldn't always be home with them when they were growing up. And then, living in California, they've had my success always hanging over their heads." His daughters and granddaughter expressed deep affection for him after his passing. He was loved and admired by millions around the world for his brilliant acting career. But to us, he was always just dad and grandpa, they said. "We will miss him sorely and are devastated by the loss." Hackman had a career and a half. No one ever predicted his end would be like this. He played cocky cops, doomed detectives, corporate fat cats, kindly coaches, and any number of grade-A all-American assholes. Both the sheer range and the overall reliability of the gentleman's work over 4 decades is astounding. Yet the one thing the late Hackman never did was phone it in. He was an actor's actor, the sort of performer who cut his teeth in theater and TV in the 1960s, alongside fellow future legends like Dustin Hoffman and Robert Duvall, fit in perfectly with the moody anti-hero vibes of the 1970s, and excelled at playing powerful and flawed men in the Reagan era of the 1980s. There was something so natural about whatever Hackman did on screen, whether he was screaming in fury or shyly giving an aw shucks smile. Sometimes he even managed to do both at the same time. But his body of work attests to someone who was committed to not only perfecting the craft, but also pushing himself forward in the name of always locating what made these people tick. The question was never whether Hackman belongs on the Mount Rushmore of screen legends. It was to borrow the headline of Rob Sheffield's appreciation. Was Gene Hackman a great American actor or the greatest American actor? Among his most famous works is Bonnie and Clyde of 1967. Hackman was just another working actor, alternating between theater gigs and TV series one-offs when he was cast in a small part opposite Warren Beatty and Lilith back in 1964. Beatty was so blown away by their scene together that he reportedly told director Robert Rawson, "I gotta not lose this guy." Years later, when director Arthur Penn was looking to cast Clyde's older brother Buck, Beatty remembered Hackman, and the 37-year-old actor suddenly found himself co-starring in one of the defining films of the 1960s. From the second he shows up, affectionately mock fighting with his younger sibling, you get an incredible sense of the way that Hackman fills up the space on screen. He long credited Penn as teaching him to act to the camera. His Buck virtually leaps over the teller's window during their first robbery, and when it came time to film his death scene, Hackman rehearsed the moment by running around his motel room on all fours, trying to emulate the movements of a bull that had been wounded in the back of the neck and is dying. The result earned him his first of 5 Oscar nominations. A movie star was born. And then, of course, there is the wildly famous The French Connection. Before the 1970s officially became the decade of the anti-hero, and long before the difficult men of the prestige TV era, there was Jimmy Popeye Doyle, a New York City cop willing to do whatever it took to bust up the source of a transcontinental heroin smuggling ring. Hackman knew the role would be dynamite, yet he was wary of glorifying someone so odious and outright racist. And director William Friedkin had planned on pushing Doyle to the outer limits of acceptability. The filmmaker later said that despite the fact Hackman had gone on ride-along with Eddie Egan, aka the real-life Popeye, his lead was so put off by the ugly places he had to go to that Hackman allegedly quit on the second day of production. He was eventually coaxed back and struggled to find a way into playing Egan until one day he noticed the cop dipping a cruller into a cup of coffee and then pitching it over his head. There was something in his attitude that made everything very clear. This guy doesn't give a S about anything except his work. Bingo! The role won Hackman his first Academy Award. Everyone remembers the famous chase scene. The actor later joked that maybe the car should have won the Oscar. But Hackman is the engine that drives the whole movie. And finally, another landscape movie he appeared in is Young Frankenstein in 1974. Having threatened Gene Wilder in the back of a getaway car in Bonnie and Clyde, Hackman and the comic actor became friends. One day, the two were playing tennis when Wilder happened to mention he was making another movie with Mel Brooks. Hackman excitedly asked if there was a small part he could play, which is how Brooks ended up casting the Oscar winner in an uncredited role as a blind hermit who takes in Peter Boyle's bolt-necked creature. You don't even have to know that the scene is a direct riff on a similar sequence in Frankenstein to find it hilarious, or appreciate how Hackman leans into its ridiculousness like a seasoned member of Brooks' rep company. No less than Pauline Kael said that the unrecognizable Hackman's inflections are so spectacularly assured, I thought there was a famous comic hidden under the beard until I recognized his voice. And that perfect kicker, in which the hermit bemoans the monster's hasty exit with, "I was going to make espresso." That was a Hackman ad-lib. 10/10, no notes. Latest reports indicate that Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa's names have been removed from a list of unclaimed decedents on New Mexico's Office of the Medical Investigator website. It comes amid reports their bodies had not yet been claimed by family members, sparking claims of a family feud. The Hackmans' names were still listed on the OMI's website, but were no longer noted a few days after. Whatever the case, hopefully things will end up well for the legendary actor. And that's it from us today until next time. Thank you for watching.